you. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen, Anderson, Bates, Bell, Berryhill, Block, Canella, De Leon, Fuller, Gaines, Galgioni, Glazer, Hall, Hancock, Hernandez, Hertzberg, Hill, Hueso, Huff, Jackson, Lada, Leno, Leyva, Liu, McGuire, Mendoza, Mitchell, Monning, Morlock, Morrell, Wynn, Nilsson, Pan, Pavley, Roth, Runner, Stone, Vidak, Wachowski, Wolk.
The Secretary notices the presence of a quorum. Would the members and our guests beyond the rail and in the gallery please rise? We'll be led in prayer this morning by our chaplain, Sister Michelle Gorman, after which please remain standing. We'll be led in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag by Senator Galgiani.
I think school's almost out. So as we prepare to go forth from this session, I would like to thank you for your attention and reverence to the holy this year. And so for today, I've adapted the prayer that the Sisters of Mercy use when we drive. And actually, if you saw some of us driving, you'd know why we need the prayer. So we pray. Along ways of peace and prosperity, may the Almighty and merciful Lord lead you. May your guardian angel accompany you on your journey, so that you may, in peace, health, and joy, return safely to this Senate chamber at the appointed time. Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Good morning, colleagues. To give you a bit of perspective of our schedule for the day, at this point in time, there are approximately 80 bills that we have responsibility for hearing and taking action on today. We're going to go in a slightly different order today. We're going to first convene the second extraordinary session. I'll then proceed to privileges of the floor, messages from the governor, messages from the assembly, reports of committee, motions and resolutions, and then consideration of the daily file. Of course, that will include unfinished business, Senate third reading, and Assembly third reading. So, at this time, the regular session will stand in recess, and the second extraordinary session will be convened. The prayer and the pledge will be deemed complete. Second reading file. Mr. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 14 by Senator Hernandez.
Assembly third reading file. File item 3, Assembly Bill 15. Senator Wolk is prepared. Mr. Secretary, please read.
Assembly Bill 15 by Assemblymember Eggman, an act relating to end of life.
Excuse me one second, Senator Wolk. Senator Fuller, for what purpose do you rise?
Caucus.
Thank you very much. There'll be a Republican caucus.
Thank you.
Mr. Pro Tem, for what purpose do you rise?
Thank you very much, Madam President. Before we begin our session and go straight to the second extraordinary session, I would ask for a point of personal privilege.
So granted.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, today we stand with the world and honor those who fell on this tragic day 14 years ago, September 11th, 2001. September 11th only made us stronger as a country. And that American resilience still runs deep in all of us today. To prove that, we will honor 3 great American heroes, 3 great California heroes at noon. And let's always remember that those who lost their lives, and let's always reflect on how we have become a great nation because of this great tragedy. I would ask my colleagues to please stand and let's give a moment of silence to the victims of the tragedy of 9/11, 2001, and for the resiliency of this great country.
If our guests behind the rail in the gallery will please stand and join with us. Thank you. Thank you, and you may be seated. Senator Pavley, for what purpose do you rise?
Just to add on I guess I forget the motion, but to add
Privileges
on
of the floor.
Thank you very much. To add on to what Pro Tem just said on 9/11, just a little historical perspective. A couple of us were actually in the legislature on 9/11. It was the last week of session. It was my first year in office, right? At last week of session, the tragedy struck. So the FBI had told us that we need to close down the Capitol because we would be a likely target if they're targeting the West Coast. All business in the Capitol was suspended for all of Tuesday and Wednesday. Pat Bates, were you here then? That year? And interestingly enough, you know, it put everything else in perspective, what we were doing, and had to finish by Friday at midnight. But all the airports were closed down as well. So getting home took some creativity on Saturday. We were able to finish our business, but again, having that kind of tragedy take place, it put our work here in a different perspective. We were able to come together and complete the work of the day, but it was quite a week. They really thought that the Capitol here would be the #1 target on the West Coast. So that was my first year in office, and remember it quite fondly. So today's celebration is the 3 gentlemen from Sacramento were involved in the French train episode. So look forward to watching that as well.
Thank you very much. Senator Fuller, for what purpose do you rise?
I'd like to add on.
Under privileges of the floor, please proceed.
Members, I would just like to say that on this day, we Republicans met and we dedicated ourselves to giving of our highest duty to the people. We are the luckiest people in the world to have America, to be serving in California in this important place, and to be able to honor our local heroes and to remember our loved ones that were lost on September 11. We had a moment of silence this morning, and we dedicated ourselves to working hard and quickly and quietly and calmly as best we can today, because we want to go to the parade. We want to be able to honor our 3 local heroes, and we realize that we all have to work together to make that work today. And we're all tired, and we know that this could possibly be a day where smaller things could occupy our conversations, but we dedicated ourselves to the highest moment that we can achieve for our people and for our lost loved ones. For me, September 11 is a really tough day. I was the superintendent of a 30,000 student school district. The news was going on about my school buses getting out and how things were going. And I looked and I thought I saw a cartoon, and I saw the first plane crash into the first tower. And I thought it was a cartoon. And I kept working because in the morning, a school superintendent with 30,000 students has lots and lots of problems, especially if you have 80% free and reduced lunch. You have neighborhoods that are fighting at bus stops. You have drug people to bust. You have all kinds of problems going on, fights between parents that are gang members. You have difficulties in the morning. And the next plane hit. And at that point, my heart fell because I didn't know if we were under attack across the whole nation or just there. And we have large oil reserves, as you know, in Bakersfield. One of the largest national oil reserves in the world is there for just cases like this, for cases of national emergency. And I thought perhaps we could be a target. And then the Pentagon news came in. And I wondered how our teachers, our 4,000 teachers and employees, were going to protect our children on this day, because most of them could not walk home. It was a new day, a new challenge, and one that had never come to our doorstep before, especially in little Bakersfield, where we felt quite safe. And the Lord was with me, and I prayed. And so today, I rejoice that we are here. I rejoice in the fact that together we can make California safer and better, and that we can use our time to the highest degree possible. And I thank you. We want to join you in the parade today, and we're very pleased with Sharon, who was one of the original, Sharon Runner, who was one of the original planners of the parade and involved in all levels. And she has children that serves. Thank you.
Members, as you may be aware today, the City of Sacramento is hosting a parade and ceremony to honor the 3 hometown heroes that helped stop the attack on the train in Paris. There's also a tribute to the victims of 9/11. All of us are invited to attend the ceremony taking place on the West Steps at 12:20. We're going to recess session at noon. The sergeants will walk us over to the doors on the west side of the building and will open the doors to let us onto the west steps. There's reserved seating for members of the legislature. Members should be aware that when we walk out to the west steps, that the news cameras will be live. Members need to arrive promptly and be seated quickly in order to not disturb the program. After the ceremony, please return to the chamber for committee hearings and lunch. We will reconvene at 1:30 sharp. With that, are there any questions of the directions at noon and where you're to be before we proceed? Okay, see none. Again, members, we are in. I got that. At this time, colleagues, the second extraordinary session will stand in recess, and the regular session will be reconvened. We will reconvene the second extraordinary session upon our return at 1:30. With that, messages from the governor will be deemed read. Messages from the Assembly will be deemed read. Reports of committee will be deemed read and amendments adopted. Motions, resolutions, and notices. Without objection, the Senate journals for September 8th through September 11th, 2015 will be approved as corrected by the minute clerk. Consideration of the daily file will begin with unfinished business, file items 7 through 25. Repeating, file items 7 through 25. File item 7, Senate Bill 580. Senator Liu, are you prepared to take up? Pass on file. File item 8, Senate Bill 405. Senator Hertzberg. You ready? Mr. Secretary, please read Senate Bill 405.
Senate Bill 405 by Senator Hertzberg, an act relating to crimes and declaring the urge thereof to take effect immediately.
Senator Hertzberg.
Members, we've heard this bill, and it's a little bit different form than when we heard it, because the governor included the amnesty program for folks that have outstanding tickets and included the ability to reinstate their driver's licenses at the time they begin the payment program. What we've done here under the guidance of the Chief Justice and the Judicial Council was to do one thing that they did and one thing we took it further in large measure. One, when somebody goes to court to challenge a ticket under the current law, they have to be able to put the money up front. And that could be $800 or $1,000 for somebody that doesn't have the money, and it could be to anybody $800 million if you have to put up that much money. The fundamental notion about the access to justice is you should have the right to be able to make your case, and if you lose the case, then you pay the price. And so what the Chief Justice did with respect to folks in the Judicial Council and what we're doing statutorily is codifying this so that you have the ability to go to court, make your case without having to put the money up first. Second, we've extended it to the cases where people have a failure to appear. We found in this last year in doing this work that people have been standing in line at a courthouse, and because of the courts being closed early, all of a sudden the doors closed, they go to pay their ticket, and now they have a failure to appear. It's a legitimate excuse that they have an opportunity to present to a judge to make a determination as to whether or not the fine should be imposed. This measure says give those people access to justice to have their case heard. This is one of many steps that we're going to take with respect to the whole system of fines that adversely impact poor people, because we've made decision after decision in these budget cuts that fundamentally affect people's lives, such that what we learned here is 4.6 million Californians in the last 8 years losing their driver's licenses because the system is upside down backwards, and as they say in Arkansas, dumber than a box of rocks, and we're here to fix it. I ask for your aye votes.
So much. Any discussion or debate? Any discussion or debate? Senator Stone.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to commend the great senator from Los Angeles. I rise in support of SB 405. It is a fair and just mechanism to fix a broken system. It is going to promote equal justice for all, and I want to commend the senator for bringing it forward. Urge an aye vote.
Thank you. Any further discussion or debate? Any further discussion or debate? Seeing none, Senator, would you do you choose to close?
I vote.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, we're going to call the roll one time, and we'll be placing measures on call. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Aye. Anderson. Aye. Bates. Aye. Bell. Aye. Berryhill. I. Block, I. Canella, I. De Leon, I. Fuller, Gaines, Galgiani, I. Glazer, I. Hall, I. Hancock, I. Hernandez, I. Hertzberg, I. Hill, I. Hueso, I. Huff, I. Jackson, I. Lara, I. Leno, I. Leva, I. Liu, I. McGuire, I. Mendoza, I. Mitchell, I. Monty, I. Morlock, I. Morrell, I. Wynn, Nilsson, I. Pan, Pavley, I. Roth, I. Runner, I. Stone, I. Vidak, I. Wachowski, I. Wolk. Wolk, I. Gaines, I.
Senator Hertzberg moves the call. Thank you, sir. File item 9, Senate Bill 226. Mr. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 226 by Senator Pavley, an act relating to groundwater.
Senator Pavley.
Yes, thank you very much. Senate Bill 226 is regarding groundwater adjudication. It's back from the Assembly for concurrence. It's a companion bill to Mr. Aleo's 1390 that we passed out yesterday on a unanimous roll call. Assembly amendments deleted provisions regarding the judicial process for determining groundwater rights and added provisions regarding how the state enforcement provisions of SGMA, that's the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, would apply to groundwater adjudications. Just a personal acknowledgement, I really greatly appreciate the good work of Dennis O'Connor in my office, but particularly the environmental communities, EJ communities, coming together with the Farm Bureau and Western growers to address groundwater issues relating to an expedited adjudication process, especially in a drought. Ask for your aye vote.
Any discussion or debate on the measure? Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, please call roll.
Allen, I. Anderson, I. Bates, I. Bell, Berryhill, Bell, I. Berryhill, I. Block, I. Canella, I. De Leon, I. Fuller, Gaines, I. Galgiani, I. Glazer, I. Hall, I. Hancock, I. Hernandez, I. Hertzberg, I. Hill, I. Hueso, I. Huff, I. Jackson, I. Lara, I. Leno, I. Leva, I. Liu, I. McGuire, I. Mendoza, I. Mitchell, I. Monty, I. Morlock, I. Morrell, I. Wynn, Nilsson, I. Pan, Pavley, I. Roth, I. Runner, I. Stone, I. Vidak, I. Wachowski, I. Wolk. Wolk, I. Leno.
Senator Pavley moves the call. File item 10, Senate Bill 414. Mr. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 414 by Senator Jackson, an act relating to oil spill response.
Senator Jackson.
Thank you, Madam President and colleagues. On May 19th of this year, we had an oil spill in my district where crude oil ruptured from an oil pipeline and spilled over 100,000 gallons of crude oil, a good portion of which went into the ocean. To address some of the shortcomings we have already identified in response to this multi-million-dollar, indeed probably a cost of several hundreds of millions of dollars because of this oil spill, we have identified some of the causes and problems associated with it, although the investigation continues. We know that local fishing vessels in the area could have been available to be used during the early parts of the spill. And we all know, as we fight the fires we're fighting today, that early containment is the key to success and reducing the potential damage significantly. So this bill will require the Office of Spill Prevention and Response, otherwise known as OSPR, to study how local fishing vessels and crews can best be utilized for rapid oil spill response. The bill also requires OSPR to report to the legislature what is the best achievable technology for oil spill response and to implement standards based on that report. It also requires OSPR to notify the legislature if chemical dispersants are used in response to an oil spill and to do so within 3 days of their use. And fourth, it requires OSPR to report to the legislature within 2 months of the use of dispersants how effective they were in addressing the spill, including but not limited to negative environmental impacts caused by those dispersants. The latest amendments to SB 414 were the result of last-minute discussions with the administration. And if the department deems it necessary, follow-up legislation can be presented next year. This bill has received wide bipartisan support and passed off the Assembly floor 79-0. With that, I thank you and respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. Senator Stone.
Thank you, Madam President, and I want to applaud the author because I think there are many components of this bill that are good. I like the Ocean Amber Alert that will have communications with fishing boats that are out there when a spill is first discovered to help begin the process of cleaning these horrible disasters that fortunately are rarer than we've seen in the past. But unfortunately, this bill is punishing one company by carving them out of existing law. And this is a company that fully owned the disaster and took their resources as fast as they possibly could to engage in a cleanup. For those of you that don't know, existing law allows responsible parties for an oil spill to have their exorbitant fines reduced based on their efforts to proactively clean up an oil spill. I think this is a good incentive to have so that we can incentivize these companies that have to bear these big costs and responsibilities to get some credit for the financial efforts that they're putting forward against these exorbitant fines. In the case of this situation, this company may be looking upwards of $100 million in cleanup and fines, and the incentive is de minimis. They might receive, under current law, maybe $20,000. It's my view that we should keep this incentive in place to allow responsible companies to step forward and clean up these disasters that they didn't plan for. Things happen, but this is an excellent standing company that did what was responsible. They went out and cleaned up the mess, and I think they should be given the appropriate credit for the cleanup as is allowed under existing law. Let's not carve out one company from existing law. I think it sends a wrong message. For those reasons, unless amended, I urge a no vote on SB 414.
Thank you. Any further discussion or debate on this bill? Any further discussion or debate? Seeing none, Senator Jackson, please close.
Thank you. To my good colleague from the ocean area of Temecula, I want to say that there is really some question about this responsible company, for whom there has been well over $100 million spent just in cleanup. That doesn't include the cost to my local businesses and to the people of this great state who have not been able, or at least at the time were unable to recreate in that area because this company refused to spend a small amount of money for a shutoff valve that would have saved from 100,000 gallons of oil being spilled into the ocean. To say that we should consider them and a potential of $20,000 for reduction of exorbitant fines is just simply reading somebody else's bill. I would suggest that this bill focuses on what we can do to prevent these things from happening in the future. On behalf of my community, I won't go into any further detail about the costs associated with this responsible company refusing to spend a small amount of money to ensure this would not have happened. That's not what this bill is about. It is about taking an intelligent and dispassionate approach to protecting against this kind of thing happening again. And with that, I would urge your aye vote.
Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen? Aye. Anderson? No. Bates? No. Bell? Aye. Berryhill? No. Block? Aye. Canella? De Leon? Aye. Fuller? No. Gaines? No. Gaggioni? Aye. Glazer? Aye. Hall? Aye. Hancock? Aye. Hernandez? Hertzberg? Aye. Hill? Aye. Wesso? Aye. Huff? Jackson? Aye. Lutta? Aye. Leno? Aye. Leva? Aye. Liu? Aye. McGuire? Aye. Mendoza? Aye. Mitchell? Aye. Monning? Aye. Morlock? No. Morrell? No. Wynn? No. Nielsen? No. Pan? Pavley? Aye. Roth? Aye. Runner? No. Stone? No. Vidak? No. Wachowski? Aye. Wolk? Wolk, aye. Hernandez, aye.
Senator Jackson moves the call. Colleagues, if I may, remind us all that we are in unfinished business. As such, these are bills that have already been presented on this floor, and we are simply hearing assembly amendments to take a vote of concurrence. Therefore, I would ask that in your presentations you narrow your comments to the amendments taken in the assembly. Thank you. With that, file item number 11, Senate Bill 18. Senator Hill, pass on file. File item 12, Senate Bill 137. Mr. Secretary, please read.